So this week I had a pretty groundbreaking idea. What if I took a hit song from the 90s or early 2000s and threw that a cappella over a tech house beat? So I know this idea is very forward-thinking, very revolutionary. I think I am the first one to ever think about doing this. So for that reason, I want to show you guys how I would do it. And all jokes aside, guys, everyone's doing this right now in the tech house game, and I think the tracks are really fun. It's a really easy and quick way to produce a remix that people can kind of recognize right away. So I'm going to show you guys how I would go about it and give you a bunch of tricks that I wish I learned a few years ago for how to remix tracks. And if you want to use this template, get this track, and kind of use this for a starting point for your own remixes, that's for sale. Just check the link in the comments. It has all these samples, the presets, everything like that. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get into it. So first things first, we want to figure out what song we're going to remix or use the acapella from. So I'm looking at this All Out 2000s playlist. All right, we got a winner. We're going to do 1-2 Step by Sierra featuring Missy Elliott. So now let's find the acapella, if there is one available online. There's not always one available.
Is it Jazzy Fizzle?
Perfect. So now we'll get this one into Ableton. Download this from YouTube legally. Cool. So here we are in the Ableton project. I already dragged this acapella in, and I've already put in some work on this remix to make sure it was something I wanted to show you guys. So here's what we have right now as far as the vocal goes.
Automatic, supersonic, hypnotic, funky, fresh. With my body so melodic, this beat rolls right through my chest. Everybody, Martin Pop.
The only thing we're really doing here is doing a little bit of sidechain in the drop in the chorus, just because I want it to kind of pump with the beat. Sometimes when there's no sidechain, things don't always fit quite as well, but when you duck it on the kick, it kind of fits in there a little bit better. So step 2 is going to be adding a drum beat. So here's what we have as far as drums. So as far as drums, we have our kick and our clap. Nothing special. Then we have a hat loop. And some drum fills. Doing a little panning here. Crash. Then we're going to continue to grow the hats, layer some more open hats for some additional energy. Then we're going to layer in this perk loop. All these little elements giving it a little bit more swing, having it not just be a 1-bar loop, but instead it's kind of more of a 4-bar loop. So step 3 is going to be adding that tech house bass. I know the key of the original is in F minor, so I'm going to want to stick around F minor or possibly F Phrygian, which is what I used in this case. Quick note here. So say this track was an F. If we wanted to make the bass line in C or D flat, you can do that. It doesn't have to be in the root of the track. It just has to be in the key of the track. So Ableton has one of my favorite features in 11, which is this scale function. I'm not a classically trained piano guy. You know, I love this. This helps me. It highlights which notes I can use within a certain scale. So in this one, I'm going to do F Phrygian. And I played around with it a little bit. Here's what I came up with. So this one is made in Serum with a little bit of drum bus, a little bit of multi-band, cutting out the really lows and some of the highs, and then a little dip there. Here's what the patch looks like. 2 saws, a little bit of processing. And one thing to note for these kinds of bass lines is anytime you can add some sort of like organic kind of like automation thing that makes it come alive, those go a really long way. So what I want to do is add some pitch bends to kind of have it move around a little bit like an actual bassist would do, you know? So I selected mono, legato, check this. Turn the time down. This is the glide time. How long it'll take for the notes to glide from one to another. And you'll see I have these notes up here. You don't actually hear these, but what happens at the end of this, it glides up. So subtle things like that can really go a long way. And let's double check and make sure this rhythm and this bass line works with the vocal.
Automatic, supersonic, hypnotic, funky, fresh. With my body so melodic, this beat rolls right through my chest. Everybody,
So one thing you'll notice is that the bass line kind of follows the cadence of the vocal. I want them to be working together. I want them to kind of play off one another and feel like the song was kind of made together rather than the acapella just an afterthought. And that's one kind of mistake I used to make. A lot of the producers out here, a lot of upcoming producers make, is the pieces don't really feel like they fit together. Sometimes it feels like two different songs in the build and the drop. So one suggestion I have for that is to write the bass line, create the drums, and have the vocal all playing at the same time. That makes sure all the pieces are musically coherent, making sure all the timing works together. And then you can use them all in the same part of the song if you want, or if you don't want to, the pieces will still fit. So that's what I'm going to do here. Let's make sure everything is working together.
automatic, supersonic, hypnotic, funky, fresh. With my body so melodic, this beat rolls right through my chest. Everybody, Martin, Poppy came to party. Grab somebody, work your body, let me see you.
Cool. Everything is really kind of working together, accenting one another. It kind of sounds like, yeah, everything is good. So from there, the next step is going to be adding effects and leads and that sort of thing. So I love effects. If you listen to my music, there's all sorts of effects in there. And you can also buy this project with all these effects I have in here, all these drums, the vocal, all that stuff, and use a template to create your own remixes. But I'm going to go over the effects I have in here. Get some more over here. Just some breaths to add energy. Then finally some risers and stuff to build energy over the end of the track. So right now, here's what we have going on as far as the chorus or the drop goes.
Automatic, supersonic, hypnotic, funky, fresh. With my body so melodic, this beat rolls right through my chest. Everybody, Martin, Poppy came to party. Grab somebody, work your body, let me see you.
Cool. So I like the idea of using the vocals over the drop in this case because that's the part everyone's going to recognize. All the people at a show who have never heard my music or something like that, they'll know this song though, and they'll be able to sing this and vibe to it, even though this is my version of it. So now let's play around with what we can do in the break here. Because what I don't want to do is just have this same vocal repeating for 8 bars and 8 bars, another 8 bars. So maybe we'll tease it a little bit over here, low cut some of the drums and the bass, so we're kind of teasing the drum rhythm, the bass rhythm, and then everything comes in fully on the drop. So here's what I came up with. First of all, 16 bars of kind of DJ intro, so someone can mix in here, and then an 8-bar build, which is a pretty solid arrangement to use, especially for these kinds of tracks. If you want DJs playing them out, make sure you give them at least 8 bars, ideally like 16 or more, to mix into it without a big vocal or anything like that. So here it is going into the 8-bar build. Cool. So what I did here is tease little parts of the vocal. I'm going to first tease that little automatic part. As well as some vocal reverses. And I also found this little part of the acapella where it's like this. So I'm gonna kind of tease that. A lot of reverb, some filtering. Also a little bit of this, just kind of that first thing. I'm gonna have that on the drop too. And then the bass, same rhythm, but they're just kind of hearing it rather than feeling it. I'm gonna wait for them to feel it when the full low end comes in on the drop. And then in the master, I'm just doing a high pass here. So everything below 118 is cut. You know, it's creating contrast between the breaks, the build, and then the drop. When the full low end comes in, and that's when everyone, you know, goes crazy, ideally. We shall see, though. On top of that, I'm also low cutting the drums, and I have a little drum build in here. Lastly, I'm doing a little bit of endless smile here during the build just to kind of hype everything up together, kind of wash everything out a little bit. And that's what we have going on. We just have some risers down here. Cool. And then, so I have that repeat. New part of the vocal. Got these reverses. Now, this last part of the drop. In this case, this is a 24 bar drop. And the last 8 bars, I don't want to have a ton of stuff in there. Because this is one's really made for club play. I want DJs playing this. And if there's too much stuff in the end, it's going to like conflict with whatever track they're trying to mix in. You know, not everyone's going to play your full track. So plan for them to be able to mix out after the first drop. So I'm going to kind of like wind it down for these last 8 bars. Still make it interesting. Not make sure the listener doesn't get bored. But create space in there for another DJ to mix stuff in if they wanted to. Cool. Now we're into the break. So one cool thing to do here is a lot of times I'll filter down the drums. Taking some of the high end out here. Once again, just creating some differences between this and the rest, you know, so the drums don't just sound repetitive. Once again, teasing a little piece of the vocal. More of these little... those little ooh, filtering on the bass line. And then one cool thing to do in these sections too is just these fun downlifters to really occupy the space there and add that interest. So here's one from my boys Zen World, Evolution of Sound. You know, it's just a fun little thing to occupy that space there, because without these some of these effects and some of these sections, it's not quite as interesting. Cool. Then we're gonna go and do a similar build as the last one. Okay, no, so slightly different build. This time, I didn't want to do the same thing, so I brought the vocal in here, and then I'm gonna hit him with the lead on the drop. So.
Automatic, supersonic, hypnotic, funky, fresh. With my body so melodic, this beat rolls right through my chest. Everybody, mind,
drum fill here too.
Party, grab somebody, work your body, let me see you 1, 2 step.
Cool. So I'm trying to change it up. You know, I don't want both drops to be the same. I want to give those DJs a reason to play out the full track and give the listener a reason to, you know, listen to the full track. So in this case, I added this cool lead on here. And then I have these little guys here. All of these are being processed together in the leads group. And all of these are in F. All these are in the root note, the key of the bass line. So everything is working together. Added some chants in here too for excitement. And that's one thing too that I like to do is just solo everything and turn off the drums so that you can hear if everything's really working together. If it sounds dope without drums, it'll sound really dope with drums. So that's one test I'll do. Hear what I mean? You can hear it already sounds pretty cool without the drums, and you add them in and it's like fully banging. So, and then I kind of repeated the arrangement here, gave some room to transition out towards the end, and then I had 16 bars of outro for the DJs. And that's about it. It's a lot easier than I used to think it was. You know, you just got to find an acapella that works, create a catchy bass line that works with that acapella, then start to layer in these other elements. But like I said, there's templates for sale. If you want to create a remix in this style, I would suggest you get that. You can kind of plug in your own instruments and use that as a starting point and build from there. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions about this at all, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. But yeah, happy producing. I'll talk to you guys soon. Adios.